Since the 401k first came into existence in the early 1980s, it's become the retirement plan of choice for all companies, big and small. Today, there's over $3.5 trillion in 401k plans, and really they're the largest profit center, one of them, for major insurance, payroll, and Wall Street firms. So by now, you'd think with decades of compounding, those baby boomers would be financially set. But we all know that's far from the truth. Why? Because there's a hole in your investment bucket, and it's draining your financial future. What is it? Well, Vanguard's founder, John Bogle, who's been one of the most respected investment professionals for almost 60 years, calls the problem the tyranny of compounding fees. Your fees are eating you alive. Ironically, according to a recent study by the AARP, 8 out of 10 people don't know the cost of their plan, and 70% of those participants believe they're actually paying no investment costs for the 401k. The startling truth is that you couldn't be further from the truth. 10 to 15 times more can be spent by one person compared to their neighbor right next door for the same fundamental product with no additional value. Now you gotta say, how is that possible? Well, so much of what you pay is buried in the fine print. The language is so confusing, it almost requires a foreign language to understand. Revenue sharing, expense ratios, wrap fees, soft dollar costs, transaction costs, account charges, redemption fees, deferred sales charges. There are more than 17 total fees that can be stacked up, all in that fine print. Consider this. Most plans are constructed by actively managed mutual funds. In other words, these are people, they're funds that are trying to beat the stock market. But in the last 10 years, only 4% of all of the 8,500 plus mutual funds have ever been able to beat the market. And in any 10-year period, it's a different 4%. That means 96% of them failed. And if you look at the numbers over the last 15 years, it's the same 96%. Different people, same ratio. So think about this. Mutual funds really have an average expense ratio today of 1.5% or higher. Compare that to a plan that was constructed with low-cost index funds that match the market. So they're 96% more effective than virtually all of the mutual funds, but the average expense is 0.14. That's 14 basis points. If you hear those numbers and it's confusing, think of it this way. If you're investing $100 in a fund like that, it costs you 14 cents. On the average fund, it's $1.50. That doesn't sound like that, but it's 1,000% difference in fees, and those fees compound every year as you reinvest. See, ignorance is not bliss, and what you don't know in the financial area will hurt you. A Forbes recent article says that the total cost on average is 3.1%, while some of these funds are as much as 4.6%. So what does it mean to you? How much of an impact do fees really have on your future? People have no sense of the reality. According to Bloomberg, if you have a lifetime of investing, you can say basically goodbye to half of your investment nest egg in fees. John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard, again, is even more direct. He says, imagine that you're in a business where you put up all the money, you take all the risk. If you lose, you lose. But your investment partner, the person just handling the funds for you, gets up to 70% of your profits over the lifetime of your investing. See, minimizing fees could mean the difference between ability to retire or not. It could save you, by minimizing fees, a full decade. You could retire a full decade sooner. I'll give you an example. Take two neighbors. Let's say they both are side by side, live on the same street. One is in an average fund at 3.1% that Forbes talks about, and one is in a low-cost fund, the best possible, 0.414, the 14 basis points. What's the impact? Well, if they invest $5,000 a year, every year, and they get an 8% return over their investment lifetime, one ends up with $1.4 million, the other is $619,000. That's 100% difference. See, when I realized this, I really said, I've got to bring in an outside expert, and I want to look at the 401k plan and dissect our company's plan. We were told it was top shelf, but I was shocked once we had the research. Sure enough, we uncovered a boatload of fees, and there were investment options that we had were really actually limited to a list of kind of underperforming, very expensive mutual funds. Here's the good news. We found a solution. And it's one of the few in the entire country where the investment options were low-cost index funds, and this company wasn't being paid by some mutual fund company to sell their products. There was no conflict of interest. The result was nearly a 70% reduction in our costs. That's hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of dollars that are going to end up in the hands of my employees and their families instead of the pockets of some middleman. So if you're an employee, please forward this video to the owner of your company or the head of HR. If you're an owner, Helping your employees is more than enough reason to have a simple analysis done to really be able to cut costs in your company. But I want you to know, just this month, the Yale legal professor, Ian Ayres, was really fed up with employers not taking action. And he sent out 6,000 letters to small and large company employers to let them know that their plans were high cost and warning them that as the sponsor, they actually have personal legal liability. And most companies don't know this. Most owners don't know this, small or big. One example is a simple Tri-City electric contractor. They're based there in Florida. They got one of these letters on July 5th. They took action and they found out their plan was 77% more expensive compared to other plans of the same size. Unfortunately, this is not uncommon. So whether you're an owner or an employee, take less than 30 seconds, fill out the simple little questions that we have that allow us to connect you to a firm that'll perform a complimentary analysis, no charge to you, and let them make sure you're really truly getting what you deserve. I hope this has been informative, and I hope that you'll take the action right now that can ensure that you really end up where you want to be financially and you're not lining the pockets of someone else. Best wishes to you, best investing, and extraordinary life.